Anchors up, sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing pretty well, Jared. Starting to feel it. Football season right around the corner.
I didn't post the GIF. Oh, that's what I forgot. Hold on, real quick. Some behind the scenes stuff.
So
as we normally do this behind the scenes. It's time for the chimichangas. We're in the first couple. We're still in like the first minute of the show, so I'm not going to say the whole thing.
How you doing, Jared?
I'm doing fine. Before we get started, Kyle and I, we did them backwards now, Kyle. It's fine.
Off to a great start.
We're off to a great start. This is a great it is a great time to tell you I think we're probably doing, I don't know if this is 100. I think it's set in stone, but I feel the need to just say I think so. We're going to be doing a thing with Bleacher Report on Friday night. I guess it's going to be on the Bleacher Report app. It's going to be a 45-minute to an hour live stream on the app. And we'll be doing we'll be live, but we'll be reacting to Big Ten media stuff, especially they do want us to focus on Ohio State. That's what they're bringing us in there to do. So it'll be talking about specifically Ohio State stuff. And it'll be media day stuff. And then I think maybe like a mild season preview as well. And it'll be Jared and Kyle break down coach speak. And we are the best at that. But it just, it should be fun. We might get some other people from other fan bases in the chat. I don't know. I have no idea what we're getting ourselves into, but we'll see. But yeah, it's 6:00 PM Eastern Standard in the Bleacher Report app, to my understanding. We'll post about it on Twitter and elsewhere too. We'll figure that out. And if you're not already in the Discord server, we'll definitely, I'm sorry. We'll be on X. We'll post about it on X. And it's a good time to use a super react, Kyle. Anyway, enough of that. We're going to do a Big Ten preview. That's what we're doing today. Doing a Big Ten preview. We are going to be doing some reaction to the Pick 6 preview, which is out now. Pick 6 guys, I think I think they're the best in the biz. They have statistics to back that up. They have third parties to back that up. So it's not even just my opinion. Legitimately, I think that Pick 6 Previews is the best in the biz. And if you're looking for a preseason guide, especially if you're looking for a digital one that's actually meant to be digital, unlike a lot of the other preview guides, you can just download the PDF. It's not that expensive. I think they're fantastic, and I'm giving them a plug off the top of their show because we're essentially going to be reacting to their content that they put a ton of work into. So, want to make sure to give them a plug. Yep. Okay. Nationally, Kyle, if we're looking at the Big Ten from a national perspective, your emotes shine because you got the sweet, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce that part. I don't know what that means. The nationally. So essentially there's a top 69 that is that is in the Pick 6 preview on ketamine. Gotcha. As another thing we were talking about before the show for some reason. We're looking at the top 69 here by Pick 6 preview. Michigan, Kyle, is the top ranked Big Ten team at number 2, with Ohio State at number 4. When was the last time we did one of these when Ohio State wasn't the preseason number 1? Because I feel like it's been a minute.
It's been a while.
Ohio State comes in at 4th behind Florida State, who is... Listen.
Yeah, Florida State's definitely been getting a lot of buzz this offseason here. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I feel as much
Okay.
as I have a lot of respect, Jared, for Pick Six preview.
Mhm.
I feel this is like a Desmond Howard pick here.
Oh, that's a mean way. I know what you're saying, but this is a very mean way of putting it. It's a very mean way of putting it.
Oh, that is true. Like, well, the ACC it's a 2-team. It's going to come down to 2 teams.
Is it that many? I don't know if the ACC has 2 teams this year.
Well, let's
we're not
get
talking about the ACC. Clemson and maybe FSU. I like that's what Kyle's saying.
Yeah,
but I don't believe in either of them personally. And for what it's worth, so, I don't have their full PDF up, Kyle. Do you have their full PDF? I believe they have Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State in the playoffs. Do they also have Florida State? I think they do, right?
At 3rd, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this 1, 2, 3, 4 is also their playoff rankings or their playoff prediction. Yeah. I'd be shocked if Florida State got into the playoffs personally.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more likely.
I'd be shocked if Georgia wasn't number 1 at the end of the season based off of their schedule.
Their schedule's pretty weak, especially considering they're in the SEC. I think that the 4th, because I do think they're right about Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State. I do think they're correct about that. My personal prediction is that the 4th team comes from the Pac-12. Whether it be USC or potentially Washington, I think has a decent team.
Utah is not bad this year too. Utah is not a bad team, but let's get a little sidetrack here. Let's jump back on the Big Ten wagon here. So Michigan, then Ohio State, then Penn State, the only Big Ten teams in the top 25.
Unless you count USC, which we aren't counting yet. We're not counting.
Not this year.
Not this year.
Not this year.
Illinois. Again, I love these Pick Six preview guys. They're excellent at what they do. Illinois at number 30. Am I wrong?
I think Illinois this year might be that sleeper Big Ten team. Not to win it or really make a huge splash, but I mean, compared to what they've done in recent years, I think they'll dramatically be a better team.
If the argument is that Illinois is going to be good by Illinois standards, then I'll take that. That's fine. But good by Illinois standards of being good doesn't equal 30th in my head. I don't think that they're better than Minnesota. I don't think that they're better than, I would say, Nebraska. They might be as good as Maryland or Michigan State.
I have here, Jared. I think they're about like an 8-4 good team.
Illinois, so, 4. Did you say 8-4?
Mm-hmm. I can see them being like an 8-4 team. We'll get there. That would put them right around that 30th spot there. So,
Gangland says Illinois was great by Illinois standards last year. That is a fair statement. Bert is going 9-3. We'll worry about schedules later. We'll worry about end of the season records later. I don't want to get caught into that right now. I mean, with all the negative recruiting against Northwestern he can do now, Bert can usher in a golden era for Illinois. Esquire, I love the optimism, but how many high-level recruits was Northwestern getting that you think are good now suddenly going, oh, okay, sarcasm. Guys, it was sarcastic. It was sarcastic, everybody. It was sarcastic. All right. So yeah, Illinois 30, Minnesota 36, Maryland 40, Michigan State 49, Nebraska 50, Purdue 55, Indiana 64, Rutgers 67, Northwestern 68.
So Northwestern not going to be the worst team in the Power 5 then.
Allegedly. Oh, hold on. That's actually, sorry, Kyle, that's very worth pointing out. They specifically do a Power 5 preview. So Illinois not necessarily the 30th best team, because you could have some non-AQ teams better. Cincinnati might be decent this year. There's some non-AQ teams that could finish higher than 30th. So that's worth noting. All right. The pick 6 preview All-American team. Number 1 running back in the nation, according to pick 6 previews, is Blake Corum out of Michigan. And this is where you're going to expect me to be like, TreVeyon Henderson. And by the way, TreVeyon Henderson. But I'm going to tell you right now, Blake Corum's not my favorite running back on the Michigan team. I'll leave that at that. He's not the best running back on the Michigan football team. Donovan Edwards is the best running back on that football team. Everyone was like, agree with that, so many Michigan fans were so happy that Blake Corum was coming back. And I'm like, should you be? That's just carries taken away from Donovan Edwards, in my opinion. Kyle, Michigan also gets 2 offensive linemen in the first team pick 6 All-Americans. And a Georgia, or excuse me, well, also a Georgia, but a Penn State offensive lineman also making that first team. And Kyle, should I say no surprise? To no surprise, Marvin Harrison's wide receiver number 1. That's anything else would be an injustice. Mm-hmm. Emeka Buka is the second wide receiver on the All-American team. That's first team, second wide receiver. So Ohio State going 2 for 2 on the first 2 wide receivers. Not shocking per se, but impressive nonetheless. Ohio State does not place anyone in the first team defense, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Does not place anyone in the second team offense. No, they do. They have Donovan Jackson in the third team offensive line. And they have Cade Stover as the fourth team tight end. And I have to say, when I saw that, I thought to myself, are we light on tight ends this year? Because, no disrespect to Cade Stover. I think he's an excellent tight end for what Ohio State expects him to do, but I'm just saying, if you said Ohio State was going to place 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in the, 4 players in the pick 6 on the offensive side, pick 6 preview All-American 4 teams. Mm-hmm. So it would have taken me a while to get to Cade Stover. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a little bit of a reach to me, but one thing that really sticks out to me here, Jared, there are 4 in the first, second, third, fourth team here, 4 Big Ten running backs.
Yeah.
Listed in here. And none of them is TreVeyon Henderson, by the way.
That's a crime. That's a crime.
Yeah, I agree too, but that says a lot about how dominant the running backs are in the Big Ten this year. I think this year is going to be really special. Getting to watch these running backs.
Blake Corum, Nicholas Singleton at Penn State, Braylon Allen at Wisconsin, and then Donovan Edwards, Michigan placing 2 running backs, is one of the 2 fourth team running backs. Again, I'll say it again. I think Donovan Edwards is the best running back in Ann Arbor. I'm not afraid to say it. first team All-American defense. Kyle, I know you can see, so I know it's not an honest question. How many players, Gangland, I'll ask you as well. How many players do you think through 4 teams, first team, second team, third team, fourth team, All-American, how many Ohio State Buckeyes do you think are on that list? Because I'm telling you right now, I don't think it's enough. I have all the respect.
I see the list here, Jared, but my first gut instinct was going to be like 4 or 5.
I could name 8 or 9 off the top of my head, Gangland says. So I will say this. One, if you're not experienced, you're not going to make it on the list. So if you're a young dude coming into it's like Kyle McCord's name is nowhere in this. He's not on any and he shouldn't be. He has
correct
1 start. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be mad about that. Like, he's just not a returning starter. So, you know, if you look at like the lack of Ohio State talent on the offensive side, as far as the list goes, not in reality, but according to the list, you know, no returning quarterback, running backs are all hurt last year. The wide receivers make a great outing, but the offensive line's largely been replaced. You can sort of see why there's not a lot there. There are only 3 Ohio State Buckeyes in the top 4 teams. Now, JTT and Tommy Eichenberg both place first team All-American, according to Pick 6 previews. Denzel Burke makes third team defensive back.
He's had his issues, so I mean
it's fair.
It's fair. Yes, it's fair.
He had a rough start to the season last year. I get it. He improved as the season went on, but I get it. I'm just going to say and we'll see it even more when we get down specifically to the Big Ten specific stuff, which we're going to have to do. Kyle, we're wasting too much time in the national, I think. Once we get down there, but the Pick 6 preview guys have totally underestimated Ohio State's defensive line specifically.
Agreed.
There's basically no mention through any of this of Jack Sawyer, of Mike Hall, of Tyleek Williams. Hell, they even have sections that are like All-American and all Big Ten transfer teams. No mention of Tywin Malone whatsoever.
I mean, heck, get away from the national. You just go to the conference first and second team here, Jared.
Yeah,
it's the same. You only have JT, Tommy, and Denzel listed in here. Yeah, I think it's a disservice, and I think you're going to see a lot more players that's going to be in there at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's a miss on their part. And again, they're very good at what they do. They're not going to be perfect. And they also just can't they can't just load up these teams with all Ohio State players. I also understand that, but it's a total misservice in my opinion. I'll say especially like Mike Hall. Mike Hall's a dude who people are already placing in the top 15 of the draft next year. And Mike Hall's just getting no love in here whatsoever. I just think that's a mistake. McCord, Trey, Harrison, Abuka, Jackson, JT, Sawyer, Iggy, Tommy, Steele, Hall. That's 11 easy. McCord's never going to make this list. He's just doesn't have experience. They're not going to put an inexperienced guy in there. Trey, I agree with you. Harrison Abuka did make it. JT did make it. Jackson made it. He wasn't he was third team All-American. That's pretty good. Steele didn't make it. Tommy did. But Hall's the biggest miss in my opinion. If I had to pick one in particular, there's also no mention of Jack Sawyer in any of these lists. I think that's a huge snub as well. But anyway, let's move away from the national stuff, Kyle. I think we need to get focused specifically on the Big Ten.
Sure. So looking here, according to
Iggy was all SEC as a freshman. It's insane to think he won't play well. I agree. I agree. Again, these lists tend to be very upperclassmen biased. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. So, Big Six previews. Let's just stay in the Big Ten here. They have here Michigan as the best overall team, which as much as it's going to hurt Buckeye fans, they're like, oh no, Ohio State's a much better team. It may be on when it comes to recruits and all that. Okay, yes, but what's been proven so far?
They also just got back a ton of players, especially along the offensive line. And Kyle put he put the first team defense, first team offense. Kyle, how many Michigan offensive linemen? 3. I mean, 3 Michigan offensive linemen made the Big Ten first and second team, all Big Ten first and second teams. They also got like amazing running back, or not running back. Well, they got Blake Corum back. They weren't expecting to get Blake Corum back. They got offensive linemen back that they weren't expecting to get back. Michigan got a lot of players back who they weren't planning on getting back. And they also killed it in the transfer portal, especially in regards to offensive linemen. Michigan's gonna be very good this year. This is not the first time I've said this. This offseason. This Michigan team is going to be the best Michigan team since they split the national title in, was it 97?
I was to say that maybe we'll give them a little bit more credit. Maybe the best since the number 1 versus 2 in 06.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, either or. I'm not going to debate which one of those teams were better, but yeah. Yeah, this is going to be a very, 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 very good Michigan team. It's so I do not disagree. I do not disagree with I've been sort of.
So I wanted to go back to
with Kingston. We're not doing a recruiting episode today. He picked Notre Dame. That's all.
I want to go back up to the unit rankings here. So they have Michigan, best quarterback, running back, lineman, both lines, and linebacker, and second best defensive back group and wide receiver tight end group here. Ohio State, 5th best quarterback in the Big Ten. So
he's unproven. Like I know you might want to take offense to that.
Who's Wisconsin's quarterback?
I forget his name. He's a transfer. Crap. What's his name? He's transfer from somewhere. He's good. Yes, Tanner Mordecai. Thank you, Gangland.
And who's Maryland's quarterback?
That one I don't remember.
Isn't it still Baby Tua?
Is it still? Cool. Oh, that's right, because COVID. Man, COVID. Just making sure some of these players can stick around forever.
And then who's Penn State's quarterback?
Why are you making me do name recall? I'm terrible at name recall, Kyle. Stop it. It's the kid from Ohio who I really like.
Yeah.
But he's never played.
So you're telling me those guys
Drew
are
Allard,
better than
chat.
those guys are better than McCord.
One, they're doing full team. They're not saying starting quarterback. They're saying the quarterback group. And it's worth noting that if you look at the quarterback grouping at Ohio State, if you look at that entire team, there's half of a start among them. Kyle McCord split a game, and that just plays into it. And again, it's we can have an argument about whether they should be ahead of Penn State or not. I agree with you, Kyle. I'll say that Ohio State should have fourth.
Okay.
Ohio State should have fourth. I'm not going to argue the Penn State one, but in regards to Michigan, Wisconsin, Maryland, they have experienced quarterbacks, whereas Ohio State has a guy who's never started before. Okay. That's why they're going to get those nods. They have returning starts. Ohio State doesn't.
So, okay, I can understand that Michigan they have Michigan ranked as the best running back group here. Okay.
I mean, they have two NFL running backs. Easy.
So they have Penn State.
You could make, and Ohio State's not getting any credit for Evan Pryor because Evan Pryor has basically never played before. So as much as like you and I and all the other Ohio State fans know Evan Pryor's a absolute star and that no one else knows about, you're just not going to get that credit in this forum.
So they have Ohio State third behind Penn State here. And yeah, Singleton's a great running back, but taking into account of the whole running back group as a whole.
Sure.
Yeah. It's got to be Ohio State. I'm not familiar with anybody else
they have
this Penn State running back group here.
It is a deep room. Like, in all fairness, it is a deep room. Penn State's running backs are very good, but I do agree that Ohio State should be number 2. I do agree with you.
And then the only other one that I'm just shocked in here.
By the way, Kyle, you got to say Ohio State's not only number 1 wide receiver crew in the Big Ten, but they're also, if you look at the national rankings, also number 1. Which, duh.
Yes,
they place two.
Duh.
They place if you look at the Pick Six preview all American team, you can easily read that to say that Ohio State has the 2 best wide receivers in the country, 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
We have 4 guys that would start anywhere else in the Big Ten. 100%. I would say at least 4.
Yeah, you could maybe add more into there, but yeah, we'll say 4. So Ohio State.
In the running back room? No, I disagree.
No, this year is Big Ten is very deep in running backs.
Singleton's great. Michigan has 2 NFL running backs in Edwards and Blake Corum. The Michigan or the Wisconsin running back is excellent.
Mm-hmm. Braylon Allen. Yeah,
Braylon Allen's excellent.
This is a very good.
Don't get me wrong. I'd take healthy Travion over any of them, but he has to stay healthy.
Yes.
He has to stay healthy. Also, I wouldn't. In all honesty, Travion wouldn't mind having Michigan's offensive line in front of him either.
Yeah. So the only other issue I had with the rankings here, again, just nitpicking here, is kind of the same lines as the beginning of the show here with not much respect to Ohio State defensive line here. They have Ohio State number 4 in the defensive line.
I'll take Ohio State's defense especially if we're talking about the whole room. If we're talking about the whole room, I'm taking Ohio State's defensive line over anybody in the Big Ten. I wouldn't trade our crew of defensive linemen with anybody in the Big Ten. I wouldn't even entertain it. I like Pick Six preview. I'm gonna keep saying this because Kyle and I are here to disagree. We're here to agree with stuff and to disagree with stuff. And when we agree with stuff, we just say, yeah, I agree, and we move on. The interesting stuff is where we disagree, right? So if it sounds like I'm ripping on them, I'm really not. It's just that we disagree, and that's fine. But they are totally underestimating Ohio State's defensive line room. If you look at Ohio State's defensive line room, first team, second team, I don't remember the last time, because there have been times in which Ohio State's defensive ends have been stupid deep. But the addition of Malone to this team has made the two deep at all four positions the best it's been in a very, very, very long time. You could have, I might have a conversation of ever. If we're talking about 8 guys, 4 defensive ends, 4 defensive tackles. Who came up with this list? Have they checked any projected mock drafts? I was saying the same thing earlier, Chop. I was literally saying that Hall is already being projected into the top 15 of a lot of mock drafts. So I agree. I don't understand why or where that's coming from. I just think it's a miss on their part. Again, they have to do this with a lot of teams. Not everything's going to be perfect. I think this is a miss on their part.
Agreed. Yeah.
Other notable, Kyle. It's just it's not all doom and gloom here.
Yeah.
When was it last we saw? There's talent in the defensive room. Defensive backs are 4th, which we could have disagreements about. I'll say that there's a lot of unproven talent in the secondary at the moment. So that might be fair-ish. Like I don't know. They have Iowa number 1, and like I get it.
And they have 2 really good
They have 2 really good defensive backs. Do they have 4 really good defensive backs? I would say if you're going to be number 1, unproven talent, but an extremely high ceiling. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. And I think they're not giving. Yeah, I think that they are underplaying a few Ohio State guys here. Igbinosa, I don't think that they're acknowledging the importance of Igbinosa coming into this team. I don't think they're acknowledging the importance of Malone coming into this team. Hancock, I think, will be very good this year, wherever they end up playing him. They are giving Burke credit. To their credit, they really like Burke. Having all of them healthy is big, for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
Yep. But yeah, I do agree. I guess like I think 4th is fair right now. I mean, could they be number 1 or number 2 in the Big Ten? Sure. Yeah, the talent's there, but I think for what we've seen so far, I think 4th is justified for seeing the other players that.
Well, I would say my issue with 4 is that I don't think Iowa is deep enough to be number 1. I'll say that. Penn State at 3, I have to plead some ignorance on, because I don't know. Because here's my issue. They lost a ton of guys. Now, that's not to say that they don't have talent behind those guys, because they might. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know enough about like the guys at Penn State who we haven't seen yet. So I do have to plead a bit of ignorance. But
I think it was what you were saying before, Jared, with experience.
Yeah,
yes, with experience. Yes, they have. If you're looking at the secondary here, 3 of their 4 starting defensive backs are seniors. And then their 4th one is a junior. I think lots of experience.
I think Penn State, whether it be the quarterback room or the defensive back room, is getting a lot of credit for guys with that experience that Ohio State isn't getting. Yeah, so the quarterback at 5th best in the Big Ten is a joke. I get it, but it's a joke.
And the defensive line.
The defensive line, that's a joke. No,
100%.
Absolute joke. Ohio State has the number one defensive line, at least in the Big Ten. At least in the Big Ten. I won't hear anything to the contrary. Again, like first team and second team, all Big Ten, according to Pick Six Preview, only placing JT. That's it. Like, with all due respect to Mason Graham or Joe Evans or any of these other guys who are like in the second team, are you telling me my point exactly, Chop? Are you actually telling me that you'd rather have those guys over Jack Sawyer or Mike Hall or Tyleek Williams? Because no, absolutely not. No how, no way. 0%.
All right, and I think probably the big thing here, Jared.
Can I real quick? Northwestern. 14, 14, 13, 14, 14, 11, 13. I'll take Curry
11?
too.
Hold on, which one's 11?
Linebackers. Chop, I've been saying, I don't know. I don't remember specifically when you joined the chat, Chop. But I said it, like, Ohio State's too deep at defensive line is maybe the best I've ever seen it. So you start adding Curry into the conversation and Tywin Malone to the conversation. Again, like all the second team guys, add Caden Curry, add Tywin Malone, add Ty Hamilton, add Kenyatta Jackson, Amari Abor. They're just so stupid deep, and they have experience. I do not understand this ranking at all. All right, Kyle, let's, I
was going to say, looking at their overall or their projection for the Big Ten, they have here in the East, Michigan 1, then Ohio State 2, Penn State 3,
Maryland,
4, Michigan State, Indiana, and Rutgers.
I personally would flip Rutgers and Indiana, but let's not spend any time about it. Okay. Who cares? It's 6 and it's 7. It's 7 and it's 6. Who cares? But I would put Rutgers over Indiana.
And then the West, they have Wisconsin, then Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, Nebraska, Purdue, and Northwestern.
I
agree with that. That's actually the order I think it's going. I think will be at the end of the season.
Kyle, is the Big Ten West stacked?
Well, here's funny. Here's something funny.
Is the Big Ten West stacked? Because, like, I'm thinking, man, Nebraska at 5. I actually kind of like Nebraska, like, not a lot, but compared to where they were the past couple years, like, I like them to make a good improvement this year. But then I asked myself, well, who am I sliding down behind them? And, like, I don't see anyone to slide. I mean, I don't know. I think Minnesota's low. I think I'd have Minnesota below. I think I'd have Minnesota at 2. Iowa at 3. Illinois and Nebraska at 4 and 5 in some order. I don't know. Now, I know Kyle's actually gone through the schedules, so he might have a better idea of actual records, because I'm just sort of ranking them at how good I think they are, and I'm not necessarily taking their records into account when I'm saying this. Kyle has actually gone through the schedules, so
I'm going to post this. I'm going to post this. I'm going to see how much people are going to rip me on here. So I went through each game for the Big Ten here, and then did win losses and put them together here. And here's what I came up with, what I project for the Big Ten this year.
Not recruiting for once. Michigan 11-1, Ohio State 11-1.
Actually, hold on. Actually, that should be flipped. Hold on. I did one wrong. Hold on. Let me correct that real quick. Let me delete that real quick, and I will update it.
We were not talking about Kingston. We're not doing a recruiting show.
There you go.
So you have Ohio State finishing first at 11-1, Michigan finishing second at 11-1, which tells us how you think the head-to-head will go. Penn State at 10-2. Kyle, are those two losses Ohio State and Michigan? They have to be. I already know. I've done the math. Then the drop-off comes. Maryland at 7-5, Michigan State at 6-6, Rutgers at 3-9, Indiana at 2-10. Without actually going through the individual games like I know you have done, that all feels approximately right to me. That all feels approximately correct to me. Wisconsin 10-2, Iowa 10-2, Illinois 8-4, Minnesota 6-6. Really?
Yeah. Looking at Minnesota's
Nebraska 5-7, which is a decent. We'll go through the schedule, Kyle. I know you're itching to do it. We'll do it. I promise. That would make the Big Ten pretty respectable across the board. I agree. Iowa
wasn't it last year that like half of the West was like the same record or like one or two games off?
I thought that was
very competitive last year, wasn't it?
So you have Ohio State lose. Well, I don't know who Kyle has Ohio State losing to yet. We're going to take a look. Yeah. Purdue 3-9, Northwestern 2-10. Kyle, I don't see Northwestern winning twice. I'm without looking at the schedule yet. I'm saying it. I don't see Northwestern.
They're two
winning
wins.
Twice.
They're 2 wins, Jared.
Okay.
They're 2 wins.
Let's go through the Northwest. Let's start off strong. Let's go through the Northwestern schedule.
All right. So
week 1
here,
Rutgers and Northwestern.
Nope. Here's their schedule. There you go. I see 2 wins.
Kyle has a loss to Rutgers, a win over Temple, or no, that's UTEP.
That's UTEP.
Okay. No, I disagree. I honestly disagree. I'm not even trying to make a joke, Kyle. I honestly disagree. A loss to Duke, which is embarrassing, but probably true. Loss to Minnesota, loss to Penn State. A win over Howard. I'll give you Howard. Nebraska, then they lose the rest. Nebraska, Maryland, Iowa, Wisconsin, Purdue, Illinois.
Yeah.
They're not beating UTEP.
For Northwestern.
A loss to bye. Probably. Probably. All right, Kyle. The one I think I disliked the most was Minnesota at 6-6 from your predictions. So let's go through the Minnesota schedule.
All right. So here is Minnesota's. Let me grab a screen cap because Google Docs does not like me copying it. There we go. All right. So Minnesota, they'll start off the season strong with 2 wins against Nebraska
and Western Michigan, which is
Eastern Michigan.
You have W in the.
Oh, yeah, it's Eastern. That's my bad. It's Eastern. Yeah, it's Eastern Michigan.
I think Nebraska pulls the upset. I don't, but I also wouldn't be shocked. Austin, I would not be shocked. Then
UNC,
they lose
on
to
the
North
road
Carolina.
On the road to Chapel Hill. Nah, I think UNC will win that game.
If you say so. No, you're probably right. I think
Northwestern
it's close,
win. win against Northwestern.
Yeah, they're going to beat everyone. Everyone beats Northwestern except for Howard. That's understood. They're going to beat Louisiana
Lafayette, they'll win.
Yeah, they'll lose to Michigan, then a bye week, a loss to Iowa. See, I don't buy that Iowa's as good as people think they are. I just don't. I do not buy it.
All right.
I think everyone's too high on Iowa.
Okay.
Michigan, they lose to Michigan State. I think I like Minnesota more than I like Michigan State at this point. They have a win over Illinois, which is interesting. It's an interesting prediction. They'll beat Purdue. They'll lose to Ohio State. They'll lose to Wisconsin. I gave them a couple more wins than you, for sure. I think I had them at least 8-4.
All right. So yeah, I think 6-6 is reasonable for Minnesota here.
Reasonable, sure. I mean, but that's not where I'd put my money if I were you.
All right. Which one do you want to talk about next?
Just going to confirm that you do, in fact, have Ohio State losing to Notre Dame. That was your one prediction for the Ohio State's one loss. For Michigan's one loss, you have them losing to Ohio State, which, hey, I will take that for what it's worth. I will take that. If I were to predict one loss on the Ohio State schedule, however, I'd actually say, it's Michigan. Yeah, it's Michigan. I didn't want to say it. Like, it's very obviously Michigan. It's the biggest test. It really is. And they need to have the offensive line playing better by then. However good it is or isn't in week 1, it has to be better by then.
And that's why I think Ohio State will win that game, because they'll get things figured out. They got the talent, and I think they'll pull out the victory up in Ann Arbor this year. And the loss to Notre Dame early in the season ultimately won't really matter.
I mean, I agree with you. From a national perspective, I don't think it'll matter. You go 11-1 and win the Big Ten and beat Michigan, you're going to the playoffs. That's fine. Even with a decent offensive line, if we can stop the pass, it'll be a comfortable win. I don't think you're winning comfortable over Michigan this year. Michigan's is a very, very good Michigan team this year. And not just good, but deep. Like, they're not going to get derailed by an injury or two. They're not. Like, you could look at like a couple of these Big Ten teams and be like, oh man, but if they lose so-and-so, they're toasted. They're done. It's over. There's not a so-and-so on the Michigan team, in my opinion, that they could lose and it would just end their season. They're very good. They're very deep.
Yeah. All right. What other teams here, Jared, do you want to look at? Penn State. They'll win their out of conference games. UMass, Delaware, and West Virginia.
You went very chalk here with them winning every game except Ohio State and Michigan. I would say Penn State I think they have the correct type of team to beat Michigan. They get Michigan at home. I would be nervous about that game if I were Michigan. I do think Michigan's a better team, but Penn State's fully capable of beating them, especially with the game being, in Happy Valley. I don't have a strong feel on Michigan State one way or the other, if I'm being honest, so I'm not going to challenge you on any of that. Let's take a look at Iowa. I am not high on Iowa. I like Michigan State to upset Penn State this year. That's an interesting take.
All right, here's Iowa. Iowa schedule. So they start off the season with Utah State, Iowa State, and Western Michigan.
They'll win all 3 of those.
Right. Then they go then they're on the road to Penn State.
They'll lose that.
Take care of business there,
which you have here.
Then they play with. Then for the rest of October, well, Michigan State's in September, but before their bye week, Michigan State, Purdue, on the road to Wisconsin and Minnesota. I think they'll lose one. They'll lose one game there between those 4.
I think they lose 2 games.
Purdue's not that good. I'm not high on Minnesota.
I am,
and I think they'll take care of. And I think they take care of business against Sparty at home.
I think if you look at the stretch of Michigan State, Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, I think they lose 2 of those games. I think they absolutely lose to Wisconsin. And then between the Michigan State and the Minnesota game, I don't know which one of those they lose, but they lose one of those. Their offense is such a Kyle. Their offense is such a shit show.
They're not losing in November. They're not losing in November. I think Illinois will be a close game, but they'll go undefeated in November.
I do not share your confidence. You might be right, but you're saying it way too confidently, in my opinion. Illinois is good enough to beat them. Nebraska, by that point in the season, especially. Again, if this was Nebraska they have a brand new coaching staff. If this was Nebraska in September, but it's not, it's Nebraska in November, I think they have an excellent chance there. Illinois gets upset by Northwestern. I don't see it. Let me go back to the Big Ten ranks here for a second. Who's the quarterback at Iowa right now that they're literally they have Iowa as having the 6th best quarterback room in the Big Ten. There's legitimately no shot in hell they're 1 spot behind Ohio State. Is the drop off after 5 that bad?
Maybe.
That's McNamara. Is that who it is? By the way, does it matter with their offensive coordinator still being there? I don't know. Yeah, it is in fact Cade McNamara. Yeah, running backs number 5, sure. Offensive line number 8, wide receiver / tight end at 10. Where's the points going to come from? Are you looking at Pick 6 previews? Yes, we are. I mean quarterback play.
Where did the points come from last year, Jared? Where did the points come from last year?
Where did the points come from last year?
The defense.
Well, okay, that's okay. That's fair. That's fair.
So it's going to be tough
because I know you joined late. They have Ohio State behind Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin. Yeah, quarterback room wise. I'm missing one. And Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
They have Ohio State 5th in the Big Ten in the quarterback room. And by the way, that's not the one I'm most mad at. The starter, sure, you can dock it. I agree. Because he just has no starts, which can bump you all the way down to 3rd or 4th, in my opinion. But it's absolutely insane. Austin, I don't know for everyone listening, but I want to see Austin's reaction to this. They have Ohio State. Austin, where do you think Ohio State's defensive line room is ranked in the Big Ten? Where do you think? Both. You can tell us both what you think and where you think it should be. You can tell us both. While he's guessing, Kyle.
Illinois. Let's look at Illinois real quick while he's looking at that here. So I had Illinois at 8-4 here. So looking at their schedule, let me pull it up real quick here. So they start off. Let me copy that. So they start off with Toledo and Kansas wins.
Austin says, I think they should be put at 7. Oh, you think they probably put it at 7 because they're fucking stupid, but it should be at 2 with a chance of being 1. I corrected it, Austin. I got there eventually. They have them at 4. But I don't even know how you're saying. So I think they probably put it at 7 because they are fucking stupid, but it should be 2 probably with the chance to be 1. They should be number 1. Michigan's defensive line's good. I'm not saying it's not good, but I'm not trading. Are you trading? I'm not trading. It is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not trading it.
All right. Illinois, back to Illinois here, Jared.
Their depth is much better. I hard disagree. Ohio State at the 2 deep at defensive line is insane. At the 2 deep, insane. All right. Illinois, Kyle. Sorry.
Yeah. Toledo and Kansas, they start the season off.
Win-win.
Yep. Then they play Penn State.
Lose to Penn State.
Lose to Penn State. Yep. Then FAU.
They win against FAU.
Why are you playing FAU? Okay. Then they play Purdue.
You could play a lot worse teams.
Yeah, that's true. They could play Wagner. Purdue.
Or Howard.
I think Illinois beats Purdue. I think Illinois beats Nebraska.
They should beat Purdue.
Then they beat Maryland.
See, I don't share your and they'll beat Nebraska. I just don't.
I do. I mean, Nebraska's not that good this year.
I don't know. I like their new coaching staff. They have good talent. They did good things in the transfer portal.
Here's my projection. What I think it is. Really? You think Kansas beats Illinois easily?
That's crazy.
All right. They'll lose to Wisconsin, and then come off the bye week. They'll lose to, I think, Minnesota. Upsets Illinois, coming off of the first week in November. There, they beat Indiana, lose to Iowa, and then they win against Northwestern for an 8-4 season for Illinois.
That feels absolutely possible. I think you gave Illinois a lot of the 50-50s, except for maybe Minnesota. I think if you look at like the stretch of Purdue, Nebraska, Maryland, where you gave them 3 out of 3, I think they come out of that stretch 2-1.
All right, that's fair.
I don't necessarily know who, but I think it happens. I think Kansas beats Illinois easy, to be honest. Kansas has a good team, and their quarterback is top 10 in the country. Kansas has a good quarterback room.
But Illinois has a pretty good defensive line, though.
Yeah.
I think I don't know how good Kansas' offensive line is, though. But I mean, if Illinois is going to get that pressure on them, I don't care how good of a quarterback you have. You're not going to have time to throw it.
I mean, yeah, Kansas was sneaky good, but so was Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Illinois finished 8-5. Let's not forget, like they were second in the West last year, where the West had four teams who went who had 8 or more wins last year.
Easier. Oklahoma and Texas are not gone.
Yeah, that's 24. One more season.
Yeah, they are not gone yet. Not yet. Texas and
Any-
Oklahoma still in the Big 12.
Any other teams you want to look at here? I know we're at the hour mark here, but any other teams you want to look at here?
No, I'd say we're at the hour mark. Let's try and for Kyle's corner. Do you want to try and knock out some Ask Sloopcast questions, or do you have something specific?
No, we can answer them real quick here. So, lightning round answers here, Jared.
Meanwhile, Austin has a trivia question.
All right, we'll save that to the end here. Who is the last team to win back-to-back national titles?
No, there's an additional back in there.
Back-to-back. Oh, I know the answer to that.
Okay.
I know the answer to that.
See, it doesn't give us a great deal of confidence. Okay.
Look at that. It's in the back of 36, 37, and 38 seasons. And then they won 4 out of 5.
Did any of those come when last year when we did the goofy claimed titles? Did any of those come up? Curiosity.
I don't remember. All right. Let's get to the questions real quick here. Sun Card with a few questions here. He says, would you prefer to have divisions this season or not? No. Get rid of them.
Divisions.
Get rid of them.
I hate them.
Who is the best non-Buckeye in the conference?
Best non-Buckeye. I have to pick one not Buckeye in the entire conference. I have to pick one. Gangland said Donovan Edwards. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I would have to say it's tough because you're comparing a bunch of cross position stuff. I don't have a quick answer to that. Maybe Zach Zinter. I hate to pick a Michigan guy.
That was going to be my pick, actually. It was going to be Zach.
I'm going to go Zach Zinter because I'm an offensive line guy. And I hate that I picked a Michigan player, but here we are. I tell you what, if the question was who would you steal if you could steal someone for Ohio State, I wouldn't have hesitated. I'd have said Zach Zinter without even thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that was gonna be my pick there, but I'll go with I guess I'll go with Donovan then because that's the other answer I think a lot of us are thinking though. All right, who should the Big Ten change? What should the Big Ten change its name to?
Sun Card is very bothered by the fact that there's 14, soon to be 16 teams in the league, and it's still called the Big Ten. I don't know why that bothers him so much. The Big North, and that's obvious. I mean, we've been calling it the Big North in this show. We've nicknamed the Big Ten the Big North on this show for a very long time, so I think that's established.
Yeah.
I think that's
the North
or
the
point.
Big North. Yep. I think the Big North is a pretty good one.
Yeah, we probably should get all of our nicknames in there, Austin. If I can remember what they all are.
All right. Got another.
Hold on.
Question.
What are they? It's the Big North, the Dixie, what the ACCCCCCCCC, the Big Pack, or the Pack. Well, I forget what we used to call the Pac 12, and the Big. Who cares about the Big 12? Big 12. Of course, who cares about the Pac 12 at this point, or the ACC for that matter?
All right. Buckeye Esquire says
the Wild West. That's what it was.
Yeah. If not Marvin Harrison Jr., who would be the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year? I think Donovan. Would be my second choice then.
Kyle McCord. It's a stats game, Zach. It's a stats game. Offensive Player of the Year. It'll be a stats game. It could be Corum as well. I think the two of them will end up splitting so many carries that it'll make getting that title difficult. Kyle McCord, whether or not it could be Ibuka, that's you're not wrong. But the fact that you say, oh, well, it could be Ibuka or it could be Marvin Harrison Jr., let you know that even if McCord isn't, quote unquote, amazing this year, his stats are still going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's just what we do here.
All right. Last questions here. Will there be a non-Ohio State Big Ten quarterback that gets national attention? Fine. I guess also not named JJ because gross.
That gets national attention. Yeah, absolutely. I think McCarthy will, just because he's their quarterback. Yeah. Tanner Mordecai in Wisconsin will as well. Probably anyway. I think so. And I'm a big fan of Drew Aller. I know he's unproven at this point, but I like him a lot. I liked him back when he was like not even a top 10 player in the state of Ohio. And then by the time the recruiting cycle ended, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the entire class.
Mm-hmm. All right. Last question here. Game you're most excited for that does not include Ohio State?
In the Big Ten? It's a Big Ten preview. I'm going to assume he meant in the Big Ten. And I'll say Penn State, Michigan. I think the Big Ten this year is 3 teams cut above. And it's probably 2 teams cut above, but I still think Penn State's pretty good. Can I say USC, Michigan 2024 because LOL? No, because he said this year. So
yes, he said
no,
this
you can't.
Year.
Is that all the questions?
That is. I was trying to come up with an answer here, but I saw who was playing Washington, and I'm not going to say my answer. Originally, I was going to say Sparty in Washington, but I don't have high hopes for Sparty this year going 500 this year, because I mean it's a chance for everybody to watch their favorite former Big Ten quarterback play.
Penix.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. It's always
a fan favorite in our Slip Cats here.
Yeah. It's always hard to watch him play. God, I hate myself. All right. Eddie, was that the last question? All right.
That's it, Jared.
It's time to end the show. Tonight's ending music will be Motherfolk out of Cincinnati. They will be playing in Columbus this Saturday. This Saturday night, I may or may not be there. Just saying. They'll be at the Roomba Cafe in the Glen Echo neighborhood in Columbus. So go see them. And if you see me, say hi. If I'm there. I'm not 100% if I'm going yet, but if I'm there and you see me, say hi. Roomba Cafe, Columbus, Ohio. Once again, this is Motherfolk. I haven't picked a song yet, but we'll get around to it. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Motherfolk.